Hello Nigeria, hello Africa. You're watching Plus TV Africa and the program is Sports Business with Orufuo Ezaga. Today we have yet another, exciting package for you. I always say that, and every week we deliver good stuff for you to consume. All right, today we're going to be talking about football. We're going to be focusing on the Nigerian Premier Football League, the advances that have been made in broadcasting the league to the world, as well as what it takes to run a football club in the NPFL. Now, joining me to talk about this today are two excellent resource persons. First is joining us from the UK via Zoom is Mr. Ed Simmons. He's the president of Propel Sports Africa, who are the streaming partners or the OTT partners, as they say in more technical terms, of the Nigerian Premier Football League. Now, in the studio with me is Mr. Adedoyin Ogungbefun, who is the CEO of Remo Stars, one of Nigeria's leading private clubs. Remo Stars is very well established in the Nigerian top flight, and he will be speaking to us about what exactly it takes, the demands of running a professional football club in Nigeria. So you have it. Football is big business around the world. But for you to have big business in football, you've got to be able to move football from the arena where it is played to billions of fans around the world. So in a manner of speaking, the business really kicks in when you can reach eyeballs across the world, or even in Nigeria, in Nigeria and across the world. Now, so today, get ready to learn how the NPFL is making progress in that direction, because Propel has been with the league now for the second season, and we want to know what good stuff they've had lately, and I can guarantee you that there are a few things you're going to hear that will interest you. And when it comes to how to run a football club in Nigeria, we see interest beginning to blossom in the NPFL. Only recently, the International Sports Management Agency, IMG, who are the biggest in the world, who are behind successes like the English Premier League and the Indian Premier League, which is cricket, they came into Nigeria to talk to the NPFL to see what they could do together with the view of making the NPFL achieve its tremendous potential, one that can make it one of the top 10 leagues in the world without a doubt. All right? So interest is beginning to grow in the league. But if you want to get into Nigerian football, if you want to, establish a club of your own, what does it take to establish a club? What does it take to run a football club in this country? Now, over the next 45 minutes to 50 minutes, we're going to be addressing these issues with the guests in the studio. And so I'm going to advise you to stick with us for the period. And to even make it better for you, I'm going to take, as is the nature of this program, a 1-minute break, so that you can stretch your legs, grab some water, invite a friend or two to watch the program with you, because what you hear today might change the way you look at sports and sports business generally, and it could create an opportunity or two for you or your organization. So stick with us. When we return, the business begins. Hello viewers, you're watching Sports Business with Orufuo Ezaga, and the station of course is Plus TV Africa, and we're reaching you live from our studios in Lagos. Today we're going to be talking about the NPFL, and we're going to be talking about the streaming of the league, as well as what it takes to run a football club in Nigeria. And joining me in the studio to talk about this is to talk about how to run a football club in this country is the CEO of Remo Stars Football Club of Ijebu Remo. Welcome to the studio, Adedoyin.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and joining us from the UK via Zoom to talk about the streaming of the league is Mr. Ed Simmons, who is the president of Propel Sports Africa, who are the streaming partners of the league. Hi Ed, how are you?
Thank you for inviting me on your program, and especially thank you for allowing me this opportunity to meet with your studio guest Mr. Ade, because your viewers may not believe this, but we have never met or been invited to meet any of the representatives, the chief executives, the chairman of the NPFL clubs. Wow. And that's such a shame, because we view them as our partners. They are the people who have the task of putting the teams on the pitches, creating the entertainment, creating the magic. And we, of course, should be talking to them and working with them all the time. So it's a pleasure for me to meet the chief executive of one of, if not the most successful club in Nigeria. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, let me ask Doyin, how are you? And tell us about Remo Stars. How you know, looking at it from the outside, we think it's all fine and dandy with Remo Stars. You have a good stadium, you have all of these lovely jerseys, you know, things, you have the private jet that takes the team from one place to the other. You know, life is sweet when you're in Remo Stars. But is it really as easy as that to run a football club in this country?
Thank you once again for having me here. I would say running a football club is intensive. Okay. You know, even beyond the money. Okay. So you need the structure. I think the structure helps you, you know, to be able to run it better. If you have the money, you don't have the structure, you know. I mean, with the way Nigerian League is, you get to play in your home today, then the following match, maybe it's in Kaduna, it's in Kano, and no airline is going there. So you need to come up with what really does it take, you know, to be able to have your team at the next playing ground that is there. And of course, seeing the way the host country is also, the transportation is a challenge. I mean, you put the players on the road for 2 days, 3 days. It has its own toll. So that's why I believe structure.
Recently, that there was the attack on El Kanemi
Warriors.
Yeah. Yes. So I understand. Yeah.
So it's I mean, that it is the way it is. I mean, we've had clubs coming back from away matches and they had accidents, you know. So the transportation challenge is there. Of course, the financial challenge is there for clubs, or for some clubs also, because you know, it's a long league, 38 matches, you're going to play 19 away. And at times the team gets to stay away for 4 days. Maybe they travel, and before they come back, they'll spend 4 days on the road. Wow. You know, after they play, a day to come back, and things like that. So you will discover that structure is the key thing. Is the key thing.
Okay, but you can have structure, but you still also need financing. All right. To have excellent structures, you need to be relatively well funded. All right. So, do you have any about like how much? Do you have about how much would it cost to say you undertake an away game to go and, you know, especially you're in the south, you want to go and play in Kano? About what kind of cost scenario are we going to be looking at?
Well, like I said, it depends on your mode of transportation. Okay. So if you are going by your bus, all you need is just to fuel until you get there. Yeah. Then you feed, you accommodate. But if you are going to fly, I mean, if you fly 25 players, fly the team, I mean, an average of like a 198, 200 per person then to come back, same thing. So you are talking of like 380, 400 for one person. So I mean, that is huge.
30,
we talk about when teams fly, they reduce, they streamline. You know, so maybe like 25 people, 20 players, 5 officials, or 18 players, 7 officials. You know, they streamline because, of course,
but that's still a lot of money.
It's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, and So when you look at it, and if you want to go from here to, let's say, Kano or those interior north, and there is no Lagos to the place, no direct flight. So that means you get to Abuja first, then you now pick another flight that will take you there. Yeah. So, it's yes, nobody can really say this is what we do except maybe after the season they come to say, okay, this is what we spent. So,
okay. Okay.
It's like that.
And one of the ways that we can help you raise some more money is the broadcast partners, eventually, giving us some money. And I'm sure that that's a part that Ed would want to talk to us about. Hello, Ed. First, I asked you a question about what clubs can expect in terms of revenue from broadcast going forward. I understand that the relationship is just starting, and there's a long way to go in terms of growing revenue from that source. But before you answer that question, I think the pertinent thing to do at this point is to ask about the improvements that have happened in the league in terms of streaming over the last 1.5 seasons that you've been working with the NPFL. What would you say have been the new things that you guys have introduced this year?
Well, as you say, there is a long way to go, but we took this on from a standing start June 2023, when there was no infrastructure at all for the possibility of streaming up to 8 games a week. It just didn't exist for Nigeria, and in fact it didn't really exist for anywhere in the world until the invention of AI cameras. AI cameras have allowed the affordability to produce this many games. So you have companies such as Star Times and Super Sports who say, yes, they want all the rights, but the cost of them using a traditional outside broadcast unit makes it commercially impossible. AI cameras, and the ones that we have, which are the most technically advanced in the world, allow us to do that at a rate that doesn't bankrupt the broadcaster within a few weeks. So that was the impetus for us to take this on. I suppose the most important improvement, having said that, was the ability to take payment on a pay-per-view basis using an OTT platform. And in fact, it's the Nigerian company Paystack that has beaten every other company in the world to do this, to allow that to happen in Nigeria. So all of the mega pay platforms such as PayPal, etc., could not make it work. Paystack, the owner of which is also the owner of the Lagos soccer club, unfortunately relegated last season, has done an absolutely incredible job, where we were being told, oh, it would take 2 years, it would take 20 months. He banged the table and said, no, it won't. Give me the problem and I'll solve it for you. And that was in January of this year, and by April, unfortunately by the end of the season, but nevertheless in 3 months he had it sold. So there is now the ability to take payment not only within Nigeria but throughout the rest of the world, and particularly to Nigerians in the diaspora, to take payment, which allows streaming at least to become again commercially viable. And for it to be commercially viable for us means it becomes commercially viable for the clubs. I understand the frustration of the clubs, and that's why it's so good to have Mr. Addy there in the studio saying, hold on a second, they talk about streaming, they talk about doing this, when are we going to see some revenue? Because that's what clubs need to exist. And I can assure you, Addy, that we are working very hard now to create revenue to flow into the NPFL and through the NPFL to the clubs, because we understand that without revenue, none of this works. In terms of viewer experience, there are tremendous steps forward, and we will be launching in the new year through our new platform the ability for supporters of individual clubs to watch the games live in a dedicated chat room for each club. So Remo Stars fans can have their own Remo Stars platform chat room within our OTT platform, and through headsets, which we will be able to supply very inexpensively. They will be able to speak with each other, enjoy the game experiences together, and that will be a new invention that we will be bringing to the NPFL. So we're excited about the opportunities. There is an opportunity in certain games where we can add traditional cameras to the streaming camera. That's an additional expense, but I think there are certain games, particularly towards the playoffs, where the viewer will want to see more than the 3 or 4 angles we have. They'll want to see an enhanced production, and we will work on that.
Okay. I see that you already have replays. It wasn't there last season.
Highlights.
Replays, highlights, and slow-mo, I think.
Yes.
So is that and then something else? Do you share what you have with the clubs so that they can broadcast like the highlights through their own channels to reach their fans?
We would love to. We have never had the ability or the opportunity to engage with the clubs. When we have asked, we are always politely held at arm's length, and that's a mistake. I would love to spend an hour, 2 hours, as long as it took, with Mr. Addy on the phone, or when I next come to Nigeria, and say, tell us what you want, tell us what we can do, how can we engage? Remo Stars have the most wonderful playing kit.
Yeah.
We can merchandise that on our platform for them.
Okay.
So that they take the revenue. These are things that we should be doing, and they should be hopefully wanting to work with us to do that. We can promote all of these things.
Okay. So you heard it.
And I'd very much like one of their shirts for Christmas. I think it would look very good on me.
Okay, let me have your size, then I'll find a way to send it to you. But on a more serious note, like he had said, like he's saying now, some of us on this side, we're looking at what is this going to bring to us.
Okay.
Yes. Because for some of us who have a YouTube channel, who have this, where we stream, where we do, now because there is a merchandise about it now, we can't do that. But again, you look at the opportunity that this should bring. Just like he's saying now, what this should bring, it should open up the revenue channels. So if we talk about merchandising the kits, merchandising the thing, social content engagement, all should be for an improved revenue for the clubs. But most of these clubs are government clubs. There's not so much about balance sheet. The only thing about the balance sheet for some club is you are still in the Premier, no problem. That's all. Then for some, you play Continental, that's all. But for us and some other few clubs, the balance sheet is the profit and loss, because I mean there is nothing in. So this we embrace this because we know what it should bring. So we're on the lookout for that. So, but of course, like you said, from nothing, when you're starting from nothing, you can't just put too much expectation on it and then, stiffen the whole thing. But I know that it's a gradual process. I believe that it's going to be getting better, so we would wait eagerly, for that opportunity to broaden.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to the little matter of, the engagement, between clubs and the broadcasters, I wonder, because I see a lot of highlights every week on Twitter and other social media handles. But I see that most of these highlights are either privately produced by the clubs or club
generated.
Yeah, the club generated. And I wonder, why is that the case? If you have a broadcast partner that does highlights, that also does slow-mos and replays, why don't you synergize, or why don't you work together as one entity?
Well, in Nigeria, there is this thing about when it's me and you. So when the third person, even though he's a stakeholder, comes in, you and me, we make him a third party instead of making him a stakeholder.
Yeah.
So I think that is where the problem is. For the league to say this is our broadcast partner, clubs, there should be engagement. So we tell them what we want. They tell us what they want to do. We come to a point where we synergize and we look at it. Yeah. I know that to a greater extent they don't come with generators, so it's the clubs that gives them power.
Yeah.
So most of us, for Remo Stars, having our matches out there live is one of our priorities.
Yeah.
So if we are not doing it, knowing that there is a partner that is doing it, there's no problem. So yes, but because again, like it's majorly the AI cameras and these. So by the time they would produce, it's still going to be maybe for the financial thing that okay, but then again, like he's saying now, if they're able to move on to that point where there is a chat room, so it means that even after watching the live game, I can still just go into the chat room to just go and have an ease of time. Okay, let me even go and watch it now without tension.
Yeah.
The first one was yes, and then so that brings in more money. So these are engagement that is overdue. Like you say, like you also admit, is overdue because the club should interact with these people, with everybody involved, not just even the broadcaster now. Everybody, there should be a central point where all of us come together. I tell you what I want, you tell me what you want to do. I look at what you want to do. How can I key in?
And how can they key into what you do?
Then what offers can you even give the clubs to say, okay, look, we can do this for you, we can do this for you, we can do this for you. I'm out there for the revenue. So it's not, so any point where I know that, this could improve the revenue, I would want to, I want to work with that.
So Ed, I have to say that I'm a bit surprised that you're coming up with a feature that is potentially a game-changing feature, and I'm talking about the idea of the chat rooms, and it's something that you're producing on your own, and the clubs are totally unaware of what you're doing. So how do we address that going forward?
You make a very good point, and so does Mr. Adi. What I would propose, and here and now on your program, that once, it doesn't need to be every day, but once, maybe 3 times a season, every 3 months, there is a scheduled Zoom meeting between the clubs, the broadcaster, the NPFL management can be on the call, where we have a completely open forum as to what the clubs are looking for out of the broadcast, what we can offer. I'm telling you here and now, the highlight, if the clubs want our highlights packages, we will deliver it to the clubs. No charge, the clubs can put it that, so if they want the highlights packages for their own games or across the league, not all the clubs have the same sophisticated social media that Remo Stars have, but we can certainly, with pleasure, give it to them for them to use in the way that they would want to use it, which is to help create awareness and revenue and attendances for their clubs. There is no conflict in this. We are absolutely on the same side as all the clubs. We just want the opportunity to engage.
Okay.
And if Adi can take that back to his colleagues and say, okay, the offer is there. We're going to schedule a meeting every 3 months, starting in January, for the clubs, whether it's the CEOs or the commercial managers, whoever it is, to attend a 1 hour Zoom meeting, or if it needs to be longer, and say, this is what we want to see. How can you help us with this? It would be absolutely our pleasure and vital. I introduced Arsenal, David Dean, who was then the vice chairman, to Sky Broadcasting in 1993 at the commencement of the Premier League being broadcast on Sky. They just didn't know each other, and the head of sports broadcasting, Vic Wakeling of Sky, knew I was a friend of David Dean and asked me to set up a lunch. David was the head of marketing and promotion, as well as vice chairman of Arsenal, and the rest is history. Now the Premier League generates £10 billion every 3 years in commercial TV revenue. Now, of course, Nigeria, we're not saying Nigeria is going to be the EPL, but Nigeria is a country of 200 million soccer crazy people. It transcends religion, it transcends everything, and it should be entertaining and very, very successful at all levels, from the youth to women and to ultimately the NPFL. So we're on open book, and I know we would love to engage more.
Okay.
We would love to meet with the owners. I've never met the owner of Remo Stars.
Okay.
I know he has a lot to say about the broadcasting. Let him have a conversation with me. We may not agree on everything, but we'll certainly make it better.
Okay, so nicely put, Ed. It's been an engaging discussion so far, and there's still a lot to say about streaming, and we still have to talk about other parts of what it takes to run a football club in Nigeria. All right, so stay with us. We're going to go on a short break, and when we return, the business continues. You're welcome back to the program Sports Business with Orufuo Ezaga. We're talking about the NPFL today. We're discussing the demands of streaming the league to a worldwide audience, as well as running a football club in Nigeria. With me in the studio is Mr. Adedoyin Ogungbefun, who is the CEO of Remo Stars Football Club, a sports club. And joining us via Zoom from London is Mr. Simmons, who is the president of Propel Sports Africa, who are the streaming partners of the league. Now, running a club is not small money, yeah? And, the more competitive the league is, the more money everybody's going to have to spend. So everybody's going to be looking for more money, yeah? And there was a development that happened in the course of the last couple of weeks where IMG, the world's leading sports management agency, came to Nigeria. They're trying to see what they can do with the Nigerian Football League. These are the guys who who did a lot of work for the English Premier League. They're still doing some work, at least until 2026. They did a lot of work with the Indian Premier League as well. So if this guy is coming, chances are that the league is going to assume a completely different shape, and more of our billionaires in the country may want to get into the game. All right. If any one of them is listening now, how would you advise that they go about setting up a club, and what should they be looking at in terms of financing?
Well, in setting up the club, I don't know, but for me, it may be better that that you buy.
That you buy a club.
That you buy.
Okay.
Yes, because
why?
There is a peculiarity about the learning curves. It's it can be crazy at times.
Yeah.
When you want to set it up, it can be crazy. You go and pick one player, then they tell you that the player is somebody's player. I mean, that can just drive you crazy. I mean, you're not gonna. But if you are able to buy, because we started by buying. We actually bought.
Oh, Remo Stars was.
Yes, it's we bought the slots, the players over time. Just then we started the rebranding. Then it was the FC Denda. So they were playing in Lagos. So it was when we were to move to Ogun State that we now became Remo Stars. Now, like I said, it's about structure.
Okay.
So in buying, you are buying something that is moving. It's like wanting to buy a car. Say, okay, I want them to come to set it up. No, it's running. Okay, just buy it. So you now improve on it.
Yeah.
So that's why I believe that. And when I say buy, I don't mean take total control. I mean take total ownership.
Buy into a club.
Buy into a club.
Okay.
Because one, you may not have what it takes to run it. Yes, you have the money. But somebody can run it, it doesn't have the money. So if you buy into it like that, all the little runs, because football requires some little runs. A big man who cannot do the running, So you have that. So for me, it's better you buy into it. Like we've suggested, even for all these government clubs, they should put it up 50%, 40%, 60%. Just put it up. Let individuals buy it. So then let them run it. The government have the infrastructure, they have the stadium. So the people are to cater for the day-to-day running, like that. Then they will now be able to create the P&L, for the club. So for me, I mean, it's about buying. So
but you can set up a club and then employ competent hands who have been tried and tested hands to run the club. I mean, the way Sporting Lagos did, and I imagine Ikorodu City. Do you think?
Sporting? Well, yes. And, just like you've said, but how many people who are really, really good at running football club are not engaged? So, I mean, that's even the other side of it.
There's a different way, a bit like what you're saying. There was Ikorodu United. What happened to it? Somebody can go buy that club and then run from there rather than starting. There was Mighty Jets in Jos. Go and buy. These are lovely brands that you can buy. Now to Ed, you had our conversation, yeah. I don't know how much. If somebody wants to get into the NPFL, first we talked about IMG coming in. I don't know what your opinion on that is, and then two, if this sparks up investments in the league, and somebody wants to, invest in a club, how would you suggest they go about it? I mean, based on what your experience is in the UK and what you've seen in the Nigerian league so far.
Well, I think, first of all, IMG are a wonderful sports management company and are renowned throughout the world. As you say, they created the IPL, I'm not sure what involvement, if any, they have with the EPL now, but I think it's a testament to what they're seeing, and hopefully we've contributed to in terms of Nigerian soccer, that they are, and the NPFL, that they're suddenly woken up with an interest in Nigeria. I mean, Nigeria for so many years has been said to be a sleeping giant, and no one did anything about it. And here we are over the last season and a half, and people are taking an interest. It can only be a good thing, providing it is done taking into account everything is there. For IMG to come in and think they can take over everything and sweep away what's already there would be a mistake. And I'm sure they realise that, and I'm sure that the Chairman Benga and the management committee of the NPFL realise that as well. These things, I mean, Adedoyin made the most sensible point that's been made today. You have to have structure. Without structure, you have nothing. And so that structure doesn't happen overnight. It happens over a period of time. In terms of new people coming into the club, I think, again, Adedoyin is absolutely right. Don't try and create something new. Look at where your support is, your heart is, and get involved with one of those existing clubs. You don't need to own 100%, take 51%, put in the funds, and bring in expertise in management, and then build from that way, so that you have, there are 20 excellent NPFL clubs. Be part of one of those. I think the commercial ownership is much better in the long run than the governors, the local states owning the clubs, because the states have an infrastructure, they have the stadium, but let the clubs work with that infrastructure, but let the clubs be commercially owned, because there are some incredible businessmen in Nigeria. I've only met a few of them in my short time of involvement, but some of them are absolutely brilliant, as is the Remo Stars owner, and the Sporting Lagos owner. These are worldwide, global businessmen with huge commercial ability, and the league can only benefit by having them as owners, and then the whole value of the NPFL will rise accordingly. Okay. It's no accident that the English Premier League are owned by massive corporations now, because they see the value in that. So let that happen with the NPFL, but don't rush at it, and make sure that structure is there. Okay. Because without the structure, the whole thing will collapse.
Collapse. Okay. So you let's talk about Remo Stars, because he's talked about what he's echoed you basically. Don't start. There's no need to start something new. You can invest in something that's there. And I imagine that, look, if the league is going to go in the direction that it should, then a lot of state governments would have to back off. But like you have said, they don't have to lose.
They really don't have to back off. Yeah. They just need to privatize.
Yeah.
So let's not say back off. Back off is like trying to say, okay, you've been here wrongly. No, they're not. They're not wrongly. At least they've sustained it.
They can retain.
Yes, they can have 40%.
Okay.
Now, for an average government club, you have a stadium. No matter the status, no matter the state, maybe another some few billions, 3 billion, maybe you rehabilitate and it's going to be okay. But if you're going to build a new stadium, let's even say 10,000 seater. Now I'm sure you'll be talking about like 15, 20 billion.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a huge takeoff. But if you bring in 10 billion into an existing club as a fresh investor, rehabilitate the stadium, put the club, reshape it, give it takeoff fund, and every other marketing, whatever that needs to be done. It's, for me, I think it's better. You come in lower than to just, because you create pressure. I mean, it's so for me, it's about evaluating what is on ground. So
but are you guys keen to letting investors into Remo Stars?
Yeah, if investors want to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to come.
Okay, that's great, because you guys have.
We still talk to people for sponsorship here and there. In fact, today, yes, one of the companies still called me. NBL. Yes, they still came around some weeks back. So people are showing interest because the audience is there. So if somebody now feels, okay, let me come in, yes, we do the valuation, then okay, we're open.
Okay, so back to Ed, right? Today is club management, and then to you, we're talking about streaming, and then we're finding some bridging between. Let's just talk about the reception that you've had from viewers, subscribers to your service, the NPFL Live. Recently I was reading a report, and they were talking about how in sub-Saharan Africa, Ed, it's you I'm talking to now, that in sub-Saharan Africa...
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening.
In sub-Saharan Africa, there's a bit of a challenge. Around the world, streaming is catching up with linear TV. But in sub-Saharan Africa, the challenge is threefold, if I remember rightly. Not a lot of people own smartphones. A lot of people own smartphones, but in relative numbers, not so much relative to other climes. And then two, the coverage areas of these networks can be a challenge. And then three, because of the poor economies in this region, data that is not supposed to be too expensive has become too expensive. So all of these things affect income when it comes to streaming. What has been your experience in the time you have been doing this in Nigeria?
That's a really good question. First of all, we've seen over the past 18 months that economically Nigeria has been suffering. The price of petrol, the general cost of living has been increasing significantly. We've seen it in terms of the exchange rates between the naira and the dollar and the pound. And therefore, we feel that it's incumbent upon us to make the availability of the streaming at as low a cost as possible, because what Nigeria has and nowhere else in Africa has is a population of 200 million people who are very connected with smartphones. So Nigeria stands alone in the continent of Africa, significantly. So to that extent, we believe that the model that we adopted at the beginning has to change, and we're working on a model where for maybe just a one-off small fee, the viewer would join the NPFL Live membership, and then the revenue for producing the games and payments to the NPFL and the clubs will come from significantly enhanced sponsorship of the broadcasts.
Okay.
And we are seeing an appetite for that. So I think Nigeria is different from the continent of Africa because it has those possibilities. I think that's different in terms of streaming around the world. The biggest issue we found with production is internet. the internet connectivity is very, very slow and poor and interrupts the game. We have invested in a number of Starlinks and we will continue to do that. But even with that, there are issues. And again, that's why we need to engage with the clubs and see what we can do at the stadium on the ground to enhance that opportunity of better quality streaming, because nothing is worse than you're watching Remo Stars on a live streaming platform at that very moment when their leading goal scorer has a chance to score a goal and you've lost connection. Your viewer will want to kill you, and none of us want that. So that is an issue, but I'm sure we can resolve that. We recently were awarded the contract to produce the programming for the African Military Games that took place over the last 2 weeks, and we broadcast that very, very successfully. We didn't broadcast it, we produced it very, very successfully using the AI cameras, and because the stadium that we used had their own internet connectivity, it worked much better, and we have to get that. Again, that's part of the conversations we want to engage with the clubs, so that can work more smoothly. But I believe Nigeria doesn't have the same issues as many countries in Africa. I also believe that the ideal relationship for broadcast for the NPFL is a relationship between OTT platform and linear television. Yeah. Because and we want to engage with Chairman Benga and the chairman of the clubs as to how we could put together a match of the day style programming once a week to appear on linear television, because it's a great advertisement for the games. Yeah. It's a great advertisement for the sport, and I think it enhances significantly the commercial opportunity for both the streaming and sponsorship at the clubs level and the broadcast level. So that's our plea.
Okay. So we're bringing this home now. Yeah. And on a final note, here's what I want to get from both of you. Storytelling is what sporting success. It's what drives sports business success, more or less, right? Because fans want to know about these stars, and they want to connect with them on a much deeper level than just seeing, 22 guys running all over the pitch. Who are these guys? Where are they from? What's their story? All right, and this is stuff that Netflix has used to great effect with Formula One and things like that. And I see that in the Nigerian League, for instance, this season, we've had the trio of Ahmed Musa, Rabiu Ali, and Shehu Abdullahi playing in Kano Pillars. Wherever they go in this country, these guys are practically mugged by the fans. And yet I do not see clubs, and I do not see the broadcast partners, leveraging on this story, or to sort of like attract fans to what's going on in the NPFL and the league generally. It's not just them. I mean, other clubs have a player or two that they can highlight, and the media too should play a role. But when you go to the media says let the clubs do that, and when you go to the clubs say we don't hear from the media. How do we resolve this? First, the broadcaster needs to do his own, like Netflix is doing with Formula One. So I imagine that Propel Sports should delve into a bit of storytelling, if not on a consistent basis because of funds and how long you've had your relationship, every once in a while. And same thing with the clubs. What do you think? Let me start with Adedoyin, and he said this is his final word, and afterwards I'll talk to you, Ed.
Well, like I told somebody when we started this issue of this Propel. That Propel is coming in. People cannot stream anymore because yes, we do pre-match, flyers, things like that. We do media broadcast outreach. We use the social media handles that we have, and for us, that's what we still do. Yes, but we really don't have veterans, but what we sell is the young boys. When you show a boy who's just coming into the main team, he'll be at the next away game. He's the one leading the next game. So those are the highlights. The pre-match highlights that we create.
Okay, so let me just talk to you. Ed, very quickly, in 30 seconds, please. How do we tell stories? And I mean 30 seconds because my producer is on my neck more or less.
Okay, for 25 seconds, because then I've got something up for the last 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It has to be a partnership between the clubs and the broadcaster. It has to be at top of the agenda for our meetings that we're going to set up in conjunction with Adedoyin to meet all of the clubs, and we work out a way where every club will have somebody that's great with a mobile phone camera, and I guarantee if we get the content, we will put it up on our platforms.
Okay.
I give you that promise. So that's my 25 seconds. The other 5 seconds is, Kenneth, could you please put me directly in touch, pass my number to Ade so that we can create a conversation and make benefit from today's broadcast, which for me has been an absolute pleasure.
That's not a problem at all, Ed. It would be my pleasure to do so. Thank you for coming on the program, Ed, and thank you very much, Adedoyin, for making the program.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, viewers, for watching our show. It's yet another, like I said, compelling package. And next week, look forward to yet another exciting package from us. Until we meet again next week, this is me, Orufuo Ezaga, saying be productive, be good, and stay safe.